game development, we can summarize how larger studios operate. Familiar images of cubicles or office spaces come to mind when thinking about a good majority of games that have been released over the decades.
Within like a AAA development, there was a lot of hoops we had to go before reviews. Some artistic interpretation would have to be lost on some fronts. And it wasn't just like, hey, can we just sit down for 10 minutes to discuss how to fix this and then just have it be fixed?
This is Sean Evans. No, not that Sean Evans. He's previously worked at Rockstar Games during the development of both GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2. He's currently the art director for the newest game in development, Windwalk Games. So Sean, tell us what working for an indie game studio is like.
There's such a good sense of camaraderie, and I'm making a game with my friends, man.
Now, while we are developing games as friends and started our game studio in our living room, as you learned in our last episode, right here, there's still a level of refined process that goes on behind the scenes that needs to keep everything moving. Tell us a little bit more about it, Colin.
So every time we build a game, it has to start with an audience thesis, and we spend a lot of time researching that. So it wasn't good enough for us to go herder, we love Hades, imagine if it was multiplayer. We built Pretty Lights, right? We built a whole Discord for co-op and roguelike gamers because we're we need to understand who the hell these people are, where do they live, how many of them are there, what is a differentiated product to them. Yet again, we can say something's a differentiated product, but at the end of the day, we're not the ones going out there with our credit cards, swiping and buying the game. My opinion doesn't matter that much. The opinion of 10,000 people who are representative people pulled from different communities on the internet who can tell us what would get them excited, that I care about.
Games are really hard. It's a hits-driven industry. You can do everything right and, miss.
People are just kind of starting to understand how important community marketing is, building communities around the games that we're developing. Not many people are doing that right now. Back when we were trying to grow Enemy on Board, it was really something that we kept track of every single day.
At Windwalk Games, we try to be transparent and hands-on with the community, and that bleeds into the development process as well. It's manifested itself in a few interesting ways during Enemy on Board with a slew of casual pizza and beer playtests.
So playtesting is super fundamental to our company.
At the time, and I still think so, I thought Riot, was the best community dev. Being able to talk to the developers, it turned League not into just a game I played, but into a better product. Because the product included getting to talk to the devs, getting to read the patch notes every week, getting to play the game. That we think is kind of the trick.
Because it does, playtesting does two things. It helps Sam get clarity on game design. It helps me get clarity on whether the networking technicals, infrastructure stuff is working. And it helps Shihan and Ricky kind of amortize the cost of building a community over time, as opposed to just doing the classic dump a bunch of money into it on launch day kind of a thing.
We definitely have had the philosophy of get things out there early and playable, let people give you the feedback, the good and the bad.
If stuff goes wrong, you can't beat yourself up too much. It's a marathon to just stay alive as a studio until you can find something successful.
Kaif, who we reached out to before we ran a Kickstarter for Enemy on Board. We invited Kaif to play the game. He made a video on YouTube for it that ended up getting 1 million views. That became the tagline for a lot of our marketing going forward. And I think that's what we were able to do with Enemy on Board really well. People don't necessarily realize that you can have collaborative storytelling happen online.
Before we knew it, we started off with 200 people, and it slowly hit 5,000, then 8,000, then 12,000, and 20,000 people.
We read the playtest notes every time they come back. We don't want to sit here and establish a whole pipeline and process and understanding that the shaders are working properly. If the players don't receive it well and they think it's not a good contribution to the game, or there's something working negatively against them with that shader. Oh, I want to do this idea. This idea is so cool, but you put it in the game and sometimes the players are just no, that's not cool. So we're okay, great, let's retract that.
Most of the features that we have today are there because one of, Sam or Josh or Christian basically said, hey, this would be a neat feature. And we weren't afraid of implementing it because it's okay, cool. That'll take 3 days. We'll play test next week.
And then that also influences, okay, how do we describe that task or that, the change of a sword swing? How do we describe this on the art side? What needs to change about that to have more impact or to correct the timing of the blade itself? There's a lot that kind of affects it. It's hard to let go of your babies, when you work so hard and try to get that ideation on it, but letting go always results in a better result. So it's like the mark of a professional artist is the ability to take feedback and execute on it.
I think the really hard part for us when COVID hit was when we weren't together working in that office in San Francisco, not being able to bounce ideas off of one another all the time, not being able to obsess over something or talk next to, sit right next to the person at literally a dining room table and talk to them about hey, here's a potential fix for this issue that our playtesters are having or whatever. So I think that became a challenge, and it's even a challenge that we're still trying to overcome right now, which is continuously trying to improve communications, and we've come a long way.
Running a game studio is a tough business to be in. It's super multidisciplinary in a way that was very surprising to me, coming from just a regular tech background. And so getting to see that happen, getting to see the thing kind of blossom into a full product is super, super rewarding. I think that's the best part of game development, because you don't see that to the same degree in other fields of software.
If you like this video, you'd be doing us a favor by hitting the like button, subscribing, and hitting the bell icon. We are also playtesting our game, Project G, so be sure to join our Discord in the links below. See you next time.